Hello, welcome.
The first time. I was
Is that
like, yeah,
right? It's Al-nisa?
yeah.
Awesome, fantastic. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Of
Thank you for playing with us.
course.
So is it making sense, the stuff that we're playing with?
Yes, it is.
Great, great. So the monologue I have is this sunset baby, Nina, is that correct?
Yes.
Great. So now that I don't mean to put you on the spot. And so if you're like, I have no idea, just tell me something, that's all good. Guys, when I bring you up, don't feel like, oh my God, I should know how. This is just wherever we're at, and we're just here to play and demonstrate. But in watching what I've been doing, do you have any thoughts about what an essential action for this monologue might be?
Yes, I think the essential action would be to paint the picture, paint the picture.
Paint the picture. Okay. Now, so a couple thoughts on that, right? So what we want to, well, first, actually, let me take a step back. What can we say is literally, what is Nina literally doing in this monologue? Who is she literally talking to, and what is she literally saying?
Yeah, so she's talking to her boyfriend, Damon.
Mhm.
She's just come home and found that some money that she stored away is missing.
Okay.
And, she finds out that he was the one who took it. And they're talking about their life and their relationship and the trajectory of it. He wants her to give her estranged father, these letters that he's been wanting, and she doesn't really want to, but he's trying to convince her to do it so that they can get the money so that they can move on to their new life.
Right.
They're missing some money, and they're hoping that the money from the letters would help get them to where they need to be financially.
Got it. And he stole this money, or he spent it on something else?
He didn't. He hasn't technically like stolen it. He says that it's now in his possession.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's in his possession now, but she was
Great.
hiding it.
Great. And it sounds like, I mean, because it also sounds like, I mean, she's saying, I'm tired, Damon. It sounds like she's saying, like, I'm tired of the way our life is, and I
Yes.
want things to change.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And when in hearing what you said, like, and seeing you work with everyone else, I was like, oh man, Nina is like breaking up with him in a way. That was a new way of thinking about the monologue in a way that I never had before. I'm not sure how useful it will be, but that came up. I was like, man, I could look at this as more of a breaking up.
Well, it could be. I mean, it could be. And so here's the deal, right? It can be a lot of things, right? Because again, with the first step, right, is, like I said, that's not where the artist comes into play, right? The way I like to, often the way I describe it to students is like, let's say we're sculptors and someone's given us a wire mesh shaped like this. And someone's like, I'm commissioning you to make a sculpture. You can do anything you want, but it has to be built on this, right? So I then can't bring in and go like, here, I built the sculpture. It's like, no, 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 no. I wanted it to be built on this wire mesh, right? So the first step, what's literally happening to Nina, is the wire mesh. And then I think what you're beginning to experience is, oh, wow, there's so many different ways I could play this, right? And it's not about, again, right or wrong. It's just about like, what's going to be fun for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So based on what you said, I think that, again, what we're saying is literally happening to Nina is that, they have this money. She wants to use the money. You know what I mean? Like her boyfriend's got possession of the money that she wants to use to change their life. And she's telling them, like,
It's her money, just FYI. I don't think she was really planning on sharing that no, she's not sharing it with him. It's her personal money.
Right. So
Yeah.
she's right. So he has control over her personal money.
Yeah.
And now she is saying, I mean, basically, it's because she doesn't really mention the money. What she seems to be talking in here is just like the new life that she wants. She's tired of this old life and she wants a new life, right?
Yes.
And I would say that, and as you guys will hear it, you'll hear this. That's non-interpretational. Now what we're going to do is interpretational, right? So we want to find one of many actions, essential actions that would fit what's literally happening. And paint the picture is more like a tactic, if that makes sense. Meaning like I can be teaching the class and at times I might be painting a picture for someone, right? But I think I sense where you might be going with that when you said it. And this is what we want to do with the action is like, again, it's something we're doing specifically to someone else, right? So, you know, if this makes sense, an idea I had for this monologue was get someone to wake up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and we could even, and this is how we can play with adjectives and adverbs, because we could say like, get someone to wake the fuck up. Do you know what I mean? If that's like hotter for us, or we could just say, get someone to wake up, or, you know, smack someone into reality. But let's go for the sake of playing with it, get someone to wake up. And so now what we want to do with the as if, and like you saw with previously, which guys, this is where your ego's gonna want to go, right? Like, because the ego wants to get it right. So the ego is going to want to say with the as if, well, it's as if I'm breaking up with my boyfriend is not doing what I want him to do and I want my life to change. And it's like, wait a second, that's like getting back to what's literally happening. And there's a large part of us that wants to do that because we want the safety of pretending to do it and controlling it instead of like, wait, I'm off the thing now. And now I'm doing something else that may not connect, but that ain't up to me, right? So as weird as it may seem, we don't want to do a lover with the as if. So can you imagine a situation that's pretty high stakes? Because I think this is a pretty high stakes monologue for Nina. Can you imagine did anything come to mind of a high stakes as if that's safe for you to play with, where you would be trying to get someone to wake up, like a relative, a brother, sister, mother, father, uncle, or a really close friend who something is happening with their life, it's going in the wrong direction. It doesn't even have to, you know, affect you. You don't have to be caught up in it directly, except that you really care about this person. But can you think of a loved one, and they don't have to be really doing this in real life, but you could imagine them doing it, where they're making decisions that could literally destroy their life, and you're trying to get them to wake up?
Yes.
What comes to mind?
What comes to mind is if one of my friends were in an abusive relationship and it's gotten to the point where they've maybe attempted to kill them in the past, and now it's getting even worse. And if she doesn't get out of this situation, not only might she die, but maybe her child as well. She's pregnant.
Wow. Okay. And does that feel like does that feel safe to play with?
Yes. None of this is real.
Right.
Yes.
Great. But this is what we're looking for, these as ifs, guys, which even, you know, if you guys could notice in her face, even before I ask her to describe it, you can see like a good as if sort of blooming. Do you know what I mean? Like often in class, I'll say like, can you think of some asshole you would love to put them in their place? And you'll watch someone go, oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Like you can just like, it wants to be something that's fun, even if it's like this disturbing thing, like Al-nisa is talking about, and nothing she would really want, but it's safe for her to imagine, right? And like we found with earlier as ifs that we were doing, this is of service too. So it empowers us to go after it because it's about helping someone we love, right? So this is great. Okay, good. So close your eyes. And I want you to be in the specific environment with the person from your, you know, this person, this friend. You're at their place, you're at your place, wherever it is, but see the place and see them. And they've told you about what's going on, the latest episode, they're pregnant. And they're either telling you like, I think he's really changed, or, you know, we can just, it's going to really be different now. And in a way you've never done before, you're just deciding, I've got to fucking wake her up. This may be the last chance. If I don't wake her up today, she could die. And in your mind, watch yourself try to wake her up. And as weird as it may be, she's just looking at you. She's not saying anything. So you have to keep going. And what do you see in her face? What look would you see in her eyes if she really woke up? You're not seeing that, so you have to keep going. But that's what you're after, waking her up. And when I say open your eyes, what I want you to do is look at the black dot of the camera or some point near the black dot. And I want you to keep doing the as if, what you're doing out loud, and you're looking at a specific point, the dot of the camera or a mark next to it. But you're going to keep seeing her, okay? Keep seeing the friend and keep doing this improv out loud. Not seeing the friend out in space, just looking at a point, but seeing her in your mind. And keep doing the improv out loud based on what you see in her face as you're doing it. And when I say monologue, I just want you to go into the monologue, but still see your friend the whole time you're doing the monologue. The words mean nothing. It's all about that friend and trying to wake her up. And if I say improv, go back to improv. If I say monologue, just try to pick up somewhere near where you left off, okay? But just keep watching that friend. Open your eyes.
I know you love him. I know that you guys have had some amazing moments, but you really need to get out of here. It's not worth your life. This beautiful place, it's beautiful, but you can do better on your own without him. You don't need him. You don't need this apartment. You don't need his money. You don't need his parents' home. You can do this. You are so intelligent, beautiful. I've seen you grow so much in these, 8 years that I've known you?
Monologue.
I'm tired, Damon. I know you think you're more tired of these streets than me, but you ain't. I don't want this no more. I never wanted this. What I want is something simple, easy. I don't need to be a part of a revolution.
Improv.
I believe in you so much. You're like my sister. I would do anything for you. You have so many people that care for you, that are rooting for you, and you don't need him.
Back to monologue, just like that. Back to monologue.
I don't need to be part of a revolution. I don't want a movement or a cause. I don't want to hustle or no fast money. I want a home. I want somewhere I can walk into my space and not have to worry about holding my breath or looking over my shoulder. I want some kids of my own. Lie around in a house and read them children's books by Camille Yarbrough or Bell Hooks.
Improv.
I need you to hear me. I need you to understand how serious this is. You might think that he's cool now, but we've seen what he's done in the past. And I'm afraid for your life. I'm afraid that if you don't leave now, I will never see you again.
Monologue, just like that. Keep seeing her, just like that.
I want to lie around in a house and read them children's books by Camille Yarbrough or Bell Hooks. Learn to bake us something. Have a garden and grow me some vegetables to cook and eat. Paint the living room on a Saturday. Listen to Nina and close my eyes and sleep through the night for once in my fucking life. That's it. I want to sit in the horizon somewhere and watch the sunrise and set. I never even see a fucking sunset. I am not alive here. I am not alive in this chaos. You hear?
Improv.
You deserve so much better. You will get so much better. Trust me, if you just leave, we will take care of you. You don't have to worry about anything. Money, food. We have you. I have you. You can come live with me.
Back to monologue.
I never even saw a fucking sunset. I am not alive here. I am not alive in this chaos. You hear me? I do not want this shit no more.
Lovely, 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 lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lovely, you're so welcome. What lovely work. And could you again feel when you were on that action and how you want to go back to the line reading, right? Isn't it? It's like being possessed, right? It's like you're doing it and you're like, why am I going to this poetic grandeur? Like, that's not, right? But
Yeah.
that's what we're after, is like the image I often have, and Al-nisa, that was just so lovely. And it was a great example of so much. And when I'm watching you, I describe it to students as like, it's like literally almost seeing the lines like break up and float into space when watching an actor just break through, right? And because, and I, you know, that as if, and I think that as if in action, just so you know, for this monologue, I think it's a great action and as if for this monologue. But as you saw a couple times when we all got to witness, right? You would come out of the improv and let the lines mean anything, but then all of a sudden, here's the poetic, you know what I mean? Like, here's the poetic choice that I made where I was going to get intense here or whatever. And it's in a very real way, lovely to watch, but it's not real. Do you know what I mean? It's not like actually happening. And then there were 2 times, like the whole Camille Yarbrough thing, right? Like, that's one of the times I took you back to the improv because you were letting the lines mean anything. But then, of course, because you've worked on this monologue, the idea of the way that section's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
But then when you went back to it out of the improv, suddenly you were letting it mean anything and it made sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, we heard you talk about it. And the same thing that happened a couple other times, like the sunset thing, right? It's just like when you like went back to letting the lines mean anything in the improv and then like came back out of it again. And I even watched you at the end, like, and this is what I mean by if there's no character to break, guys, there's nothing to break. Because I even feel like I saw her at the end, like, and someone who didn't know this way of working wouldn't know this. They would just be riveted by the performance, right? But I saw Al-nisa at the end, like, come back from the improv back to the lines and really letting the lines mean anything and staying on the action, and watch her start to feel like the habit of the line reading come back and like push through it and keep going after the action with that friend. And it's just so moving to watch. Do you know what I mean? Like, as soon as you started doing the as if, we were also moved watching it because it's really happening and you're really talking to that. And again, everyone just keep in mind, right? This is all in her mind. Meaning she was seeing that friend in her mind, and you see how the imagination accepts that. She's not trying to see her out here. It's a trap we make, right? Because I can't see anybody in this room, but I see people in my head. And if I just accept that, then suddenly it looks like I'm really talking to somebody when I see them in my mind. But as soon as I'm like, I'm seeing my brother out there, I start to mug it because I'm lying. So I want it to look like it, right? But for me, as soon as she began that as if, it's just the things the reality that the ego can't make up. There was a measured way of talking to her friend that was so real. And it's the way we can talk to people when there's a lot of emotion, when things are important. But the ego will never come up with that as an actor choice because it's not interesting. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and it's too real, so we can't make it up. But watching you do the improv, we were all just so riveted. And then when you were really in these big chunks of the monologue, you were doing that, letting the lines mean anything and just doing the same thing, really just talking to your friend and trying to get her to wake up. it was just so moving. And we believe the illusion that you're talking to this guy, and you're talking to him in the most simple, direct, real way based on what you're actually seeing in your mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's this thing it's this, and as actors, we've been taught this way, a lot of us. So it makes sense that we fall into this trap. But most actors do monologues the way that no one does a monologue unless they're an actor doing a monologue, right? Where it's just like putting all the choices. I get big here, I get small here, I get all this stuff, and it's just like, right, yeah, it's just like, but that what we do when we really monologue in life is we just let it rip and go after it. Mm-hmm. Where to be or not to be, that's the question. Whether it's noble in the mind's eye, we just let it rip. And you were letting it rip, and it had its own pace that you didn't create, it was just happening. Mm-hmm. But when you were just letting the lines mean anything, then we believe this character. Do you know what I mean? Like, then I'm like, oh, she's talking to this guy, and she's for real trying to reach him. And it's really happening right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And could you feel it when you were just like on the action? And like,
I did. It was a constant struggle. And, this is a monologue that, I just really started working on this monologue, but I'm very familiar with the play. Like I saw the initial reading, and I've been on the journey with this play. So even when I took the break, I was like, man, he's right. Like I tried to not memorize it by rote, but then I'm like, damn, I really fell into that trap. And I love this monologue. I connect to it so much that I really want to just throw away all of these things that I'd had. So it was a constant like struggle, which it felt good to be like, okay, like this is the path, and I want to continue to explore through this path, as opposed to like being pulled back into my preconceived notion of what it should be and what I envision it to be.
Yes. So well said, right? And that's exactly what we're after. And I love the way you talk about the struggle, because it is a struggle. We want to see the struggle. Guys, acting is supposed to be a struggle. It's hard to get what you want. And we don't, if you're really playing the action, the struggle for the viewer is, it all appears to be the character if you're just on the action, right? Like, if I were to tell you guys the amount of chaos in the past 24 hours leading up to me doing this webinar, and how up to the last minute we're dealing with technical issues and the whole thing may not work, and it's like, so there's plenty of struggle for me to move through when I'm teaching this class. You guys don't know what that is. You just see someone doing something real. And so the struggle, whether it's the struggle to keep, meaning another way to say it is, of course, we're always going to fall into line readings. All we have to do is keep coming back. And if we keep coming back to the action, that's what makes it work. We just see the actor coming back, and the struggle is what moves us. So many actors want to present the lie. It's like, I want to create a thing I can master and control, so you will not see a struggling actor. You will see what a lot of people would say is a great performance, watching someone do something, but it's like, but that ain't real. Do you know what I mean? And maybe the ego applauds, and it's like, that was interesting, but it's not the same thing as what you were doing just now. And I think that's what we're really after. So that's why, also the old thing that so many actors do, where you're like, how'd the audition go? And it's like, man, it was supposed to be a love scene with a woman, and the reader was like a middle-aged dude who was like looking down the whole time and couldn't act. So what do I do? It's like, well, that's the job. Like, that's the struggle. And with this way of working, as you guys will experience if you keep playing with it, you warm up with the as if, and then you can read with whoever. But if you've warmed up with the as if, you'll be surprised at how just going after the action with that reader, with that person, whoever they are, you stay in a certain zone without trying to, because you've warmed up with that as if, and you're doing a specific thing in a specific way. But you can absolutely play honestly with the reader or with the person in your mind, like Al-nisa was just doing, right? So that struggle is not what we want to like, when does it stop? We want to go like, oh, that's the deal. That's the deal. Like I'm in a line reading, I'm thinking about Donald Trump, I'm doing whatever the hell's happening, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just, let me come back to this human being, either in my mind or right over here, and just go after that thing. And it's like to have something to do. Do you know what I mean? To have something real and meaningful to do, which we saw you doing. I think that's what the audition wants to be. We want to watch a real human being struggle to do something. Get the audition right is not a real struggle, because you can't, you know what I mean? Like you can't do nothing with that except just, it's interesting. Like I've been watching, like I'm sure a lot of people, this amazing Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan documentary. If those of you who've seen it, it's called The Last Dance. It's like amazing. The thing with Michael Jordan is he was never just trying to win. He had to have an action every time, which is why he had like, he would set it up so some young player would offend him, and the young player's like, I didn't mean anything by it. But in Jordan's mind is like, I'm going to put that guy in his place. I want to show them who's boss. I want to gain their respect. I want to rub their noses in it. He always had to find something to do, not just win, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we're looking to do here. And you know, what you guys also saw me do with Al-nisa and what I've been doing with the other actors so far. So this is the great thing about self-taping, guys, is that these improv exercises that I'm doing with you, you can do when you self-tape. Meaning you can literally, Al-nisa, if you're taping this monologue, you can do the improv you just did, have record, and at a certain point, just take a beat so you can clean edit and go into it. Mm-hmm. Right? So what I used to say in my classes before everything became self-tape is like, well, too bad we can't do these improv exercises in the room. Well, now you can a lot of the time, right? Because there's so much self-taping. So what you're seeing me do with folks, I really encourage you to use this as a tool with the actual auditions, right? Is you can, and it was great what we're starting to play with right now, what you guys saw me do with Al-nisa, which is, so the other two players, they're acting with me, right? And we watch them warm up with the as if person in their mind, then talk to me as if I was that person, but still acting off me, and then play the scene with me. And what we saw Al-nisa do is not play off me, but have that friend in her mind, and she can do the improv, and she can, keep going back and forth with the lines. And like you said, like, embracing that struggle, and a thing you can do to keep, if you like this action and as if, you can keep running this exercise with yourself. And one of the reasons I call it improv surfing is because what we're after is like, it's one wave. What we're after is like, whether I'm improving or saying the lines, it eventually feels like, oh, I'm just on the same wave. Mm-hmm. I sometimes also call it the improv bleed, but that's just more grotesque sounding than improv surfing. But it's wanting to have the lines and the improv be such a bleed that we don't know which is which. Mm-hmm. Right? But for the actress, the actor, it's like, I'm just going after this specific thing with this specific person. And like a lot of people talk about, or, if you meditate, I meditate, a meditation instructor once said to me, like with transcendental meditation, it's like, look, you're off your mantra. As soon as you notice you're off your mantra, you just come back. Don't beat yourself up for being off the mantra. Just, you'll be off the mantra. You'll finish the meditation. You're like, was I ever on my mantra? How often was I on my, but there's no bad or good it's all a good meditation. There's no bad meditation. When you're aware you're off it, you just come back. And with this way of working, anything that takes us off what we're doing to the other, as soon as we're aware we're off, we just come back. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said to you, that feeling of like the line readings, like, oh my God, I'm getting caught I'm doing a line reading again. It's like, let me just come back to that person. And then what begins to happen, as we saw with you, the illusion for the viewer is not that it's an actor wrestling with line readings, but it's a human being struggling to do the thing. Because that happens in life. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to make amends to my wife, and suddenly I realize, like, I'm like performing right now. You know what I mean? Like, let me stop that and try to really like get back to what I was doing. It's the same thing here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense.
Good. And what I could, you know, I sensed that you sensed, and it's why, as I've been saying, this with this approach to acting, it's much more like dance or surfing or tennis or this like, because when you're on it, right, it's just this sort of like falling sense.
A
Do you know what I
roller
mean?
coaster, like when you're going, you're
Yeah.
like, "Ah."
And I literally talk about, I use the word track so much with talking about the scene because of that feeling. Because me as an actor, that's what it feels like. It's just
Yeah.
like I'm on this roller coaster that I'm not in control over, and I'm not even sure what's happening. But there's this track that I'm on that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not in control of. And the track is the action.
Yeah.
The track is what we're doing to the other. Also, guys, this is why, and again, a lot of people are going to rebel with this, but one of the best things you can do with self-tapes is, with this way of working, do 3 or 4 takes, and that's it. And I highly say, I err on 3 and not 4. And then if you're with a reader, your friend or whatever, ask them, which do you think is the most honest and magnetic, and go with what they say and let it go. Because, you know, this happens in class a lot too, where actors will say like, well, because I don't tape class, we don't watch, we don't like record and then watch it or anything like that. I mean, so what sometimes people in class will say is like, well, but can't I watch myself when I was being so honest? Like, I want to see what it looks like when I'm just really on the action. But it's a trap, because the ego sees what you look like when you're being honest, and it's like, oh, I was talking slower. Oh, I was doing this eyebrow thing, or I wasn't, and then the ego tries to fake it. So
But that
that's,
just came to mind for me too. I was like, "Ooh, I know this is going to be recorded. I want."
oh yeah, right. Well, you have the choice now. Yeah, you are going to get to see it because this is being recorded, right? So you get to see it. So you'll experience the trap, or if you dare, I
I'm
challenge
gonna
people
watch
who are,
that.
yeah,
Skip over.
yeah. See if anyone who plays with me today can not watch themselves. Probably impossible. But yeah, it really is a trap to spend any amount of serious time looking at ourselves, which is why, like you guys watching today, and why when in my ongoing classes, what I say to people is, it's as important watching it as it is doing it. Because we're off ourselves when we're really on the action, the sense of it is often after when we're done, like, what just happened? I was just taken for a ride. It's like being in the moment playing tennis and you finish and you're like, that was a good fucking game, but I don't know what happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't remember making moves. I don't remember, like, I enjoyed it and I was on a ride, but I wasn't in control of the ride. Something else was guiding me. So because of that, when we're really on the action, we kind of don't know what happened. And because the ego's not in control, it's not this sense of, yeah, or like, no. It's more this sense of, I just did that.
Yeah.
That was real. Like, that was something real just happened. Wow. So it's humbling, and it's so helpful to see it in others, because we kind of have to take this leap of faith and go, oh, even for you going like, oh, watching those 2 other young ladies do it, it's like that was undeniably honest and moving. So I just need to trust it and jump in.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a very real way, guys, what I'm suggesting is watch yourself much less and just trust the experience. Do you know what I mean? And not like try to have a camera watching yourself play tennis while you're playing tennis. Or the tennis player doesn't, like, as soon as they finish the set, go, can we watch that? I want to see what I did. And the tennis coach is like, you don't need to see what you did. You just need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just keep doing it and you'll get better at playing tennis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was, again, another great example and so moving to watch and witness. And just thank you for jumping on and playing with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having class with us today.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Everybody clap into your own little worlds for Al-nisa. That was just lovely, you know, and like I said, you know, right before or right after the break, it's just so moving to watch real human beings reveal themselves. And one of my favorite quotes about acting, and it was maybe Meisner who said it, but the courage to be boring. And we've seen that in all our players so far today, the courage to be boring, which is not boring, but the courage to play it honestly, to really play off the reader or the person in my mind, and not let the ego take over and try to do it in the interesting way and try to get it right, but just to humbly keep coming back to like, okay, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to do something. And as we've seen so far today, honestly, watching someone try to figure out what to do, honestly, watching someone struggle with how to do it and then really do something is so moving. And so the opposite of boring. But it's like mesmerizing in its simplicity. And what we've seen from all three actresses so far to me are these moments that, again, you can't be coached on. You can't like write it in the margin of the script and you know, duplicate it. They are true moments of spontaneity that happen from doing one thing honestly and imperfectly, but you just keep coming back to it. And this act of revelation, like Al-nisa was talking of, being on this roller coaster that she's participating in, but ultimately feels like you're not controlling it because I'm just trying to do the one thing. And in doing the one thing, it's going somewhere that I can't control. Okay.